The Flintstones, he got into this horrific car accident and he was out in a coma for like a month or two, and finally the doctors started talking to him in a coma. They started addressing him as Bugs Bunny, and he came out of the coma basically going, "What's up, Doc?"
Yes.
How am I sounding? I'm away from the mic, but how does it sound?
It sounds good.
Okay, good. Thank you.
In boiling water and it'll jump right out. But put a frog in cool water and slowly heat it up. That frog will boil. As veterans, we tell ourselves the lie that we can handle anything. We let the water boil. You are not a frog. If you or a veteran you know needs support, don't wait. Reach out. Find resources at va.gov/reach. That's va.gov/reach. Brought to you by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and the Ad Council.
Putin, stop these attacks immediately. The ban on Russian oil imports.
And it will come from Russia. Yep.
News that happens next will happen on WCPT 820.
This is AP News. I'm Rita Foley. Today, the House is expected to pass a gun safety bill. The Senate passed it last night. The AP's Mike Gracia.
The Senate easily approved a bipartisan gun violence bill Thursday night. Republican Senator John Cornyn of Texas was one of the key architects.
The potential we have to save lives is worth any sort of concession we might have had to make during the negotiation.
Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal.
It marks meaningful progress.
The bill, which follows mass shootings in Buffalo, New York, and Uvalde, Texas, would toughen background checks for the
Reverend Williams is on the line.
Okay.
red flag laws.
Reverend, how are you?
Programs for school safety.
Good morning. I'm well. How are you?
I am doing well. Doing well. Just
Washington. The Supreme Court
doing this last minute stuff.
A gun permitting law in New York
Give me
has several
one
states
moment.
with firearms restrictions scrambling.
Sure.
Dave Workman at the Second Amendment Foundation says this ruling actually protects New York residents.
I don't think New York citizens have anything to fear at all, except maybe the overreaction from their government in Albany.
But the Reverend Patrick Mahoney of the group Faith Leaders for Ending Gun Violence told a crowd gathered outside the Supreme Court building.
This is an absolute disgrace when we are seeing increased violence in America through guns.
The UN is warning that the world faces a catastrophe because of the growing shortage of food. The war in Ukraine is one of the reasons, says the UN. Ukrainian forces will pull back from the battered city of Severodonetsk to avoid being surrounded by Russian troops, says a regional governor. Toyota is recalling thousands of vehicles worldwide because of wheel bolts that could come loose, risking a crash. The BZ4X, it's a crossover vehicle. This is AP News. The latest from the House January 6th committee.
Several members
Okay,
of Congress
Paul, let's just make sure that the pastor's
Trump's attempt to deny President Biden's
sound is good,
election.
please.
In Thursday's House Select Committee hearing, former White House officials and
Okay.
talked about Republicans in Congress seeking pardons from President
Reverend,
Trump
can you speak
for
to
their
us?
parts in the planning to overturn the certification of President Joe Biden.
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Good morning.
Cassidy Hutchinson.
Okay, how does she sound? Does her volume need to be up? How is that sounding in the studio?
Levels look fine.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Brooks, I know both advocated for there to be a blanket pardon for members involved in that meeting, and a handful of other members.
Other aides add Republican Representative Scott Perry of Pennsylvania, Andy Biggs of Arizona, and Louis Gohmert of Texas were also mentioned. Gates, in a statement, calls the investigation a political sideshow. Perry denies having sought a pardon. Tim McGuire, Washington.
And I'm Rita Foley, AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 Chicago traffic update.
On the northbound tri-state at 60 Town Line Road, there's a crash. The right lane is blocked. Traffic slows approaching the scene. 8094 westbound. We're seeing heavy delays now.
Oh, Pastor, how you doing?
Boulevard. A crash now has the left center lane blocked. There's also a new lane.
I'm doing well. How are you?
Oh, girl, finally we were able to do a workaround and get the sound back together on this. So I don't have to do this on my phone anymore. Oh, whew. It has been a lot.
Sure.
It has been a lot, but you know what? Hey, I'm still here as very dear, the beloved Albertina Walker used to say. One of her great songs before she went on to sing in the Heavenly Choir. But it's great hearing your voice. Great, 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 great. You guys, let me see. Let me see if I can do that.
And as a judge,
Okay, let me see. Yep. Hold on a minute, trying to get this camera in the right place. So maybe what I need to do is move it over. Yeah. So I can go right here.
Tom
Yep,
Hartman.
yep,
This
yep.
is like a bizarre parody of Seinfeld. Now the Republican Party's about nothing. Nothing about getting
1 minute.
out of our water
Okay,
supply,
thank
the
you.
child brain-damaging pesticides out of our food. Nothing about strengthening Social Security or expanding Medicare to include glasses or hearing or teeth. Nothing about helping young families make it through those first tough 5 years with something like low-cost pre-K.
The Tom Hartman Radio Program, weekdays 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
All right, all right,
This
all
is Joan
right.
Esposito, and here at WCPT, we really, really love pets. So much that we're spotlighting and adopting.
Okay, would you, I know you were sending me text, Paul,
Our friends from the Anti-Cruelty
but if you would put
Society
it
will
in
be
my
featuring
ear
a
to let me
furry
know
celebrity on the
if you get
WCPT820.com
Dr.
homepage
Knighton up,
every
just let me
month.
know
We'll
as soon as
be
she's
live to
up.
them and
Okay?
drugs
That
about
helps me
keeping
with
our
my
pets
timing.
healthy and why rescue is best.
All right, let's
Log
have a
on to
great show.
WCPT820.com
Thank
to learn
you.
more.
Chicago's CPT 820, where facts matter.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am breathing.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday, June 24th, 2022. I'm so glad to be with you. Coming from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. And I want you to meet my morning stars. Andre is up there first almost every day. Bless his heart. I don't know if he's gone to bed yet because he works like 24 hours a day. Samantha Banks and Mark Stevens out there in D.C., my other home. Paula Garcini, Zipser, my dear, dear friend, one of the original morning stars. Hey, girl. Shirley Carter, absolutely, from beautiful Philadelphia. Jewel from up there in New York, and Francis and Barbara Bacon, and so many of you. Ty, hey, Max, sweetie out there in D.C. Everybody, meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, and meet us also at the Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page. Yep. I'm over there too. But that's my official page. For so many of you have been requesting my friendship on the Santita Jackson page. That's not the one that you have to go to. In fact, they continue to purge people because you have to start a personal page before you can have another page and really accept more people. And so if you would, please go on over to Santita Jackson and Friends, Santita Jackson and Friends. Let's talk about the SCOTUS decision yesterday, opening up really the opportunity to carry guns out in public. What will that mean? How does that shape the culture? We've got to talk about that today on the Santita Jackson Show. We're going to be talking with State Senator Jackie Collins. She's one of the candidates for the 1st Congressional District of Illinois, the congressional seat that will be voted upon on Tuesday. Cannot wait to hear what she has to say. She's a highly respected state legislator here in the state of Illinois. Been with us for decades, and we're so glad that she is going to be with us today. I've been trying to get her and others onto the show, and I'm just glad that she'll be here before the election. And, you need to know what you need to ask your legislators. We're going to have some more. We're going to have a judge, Deidre Bauman, on with us on next week, so you can know what you need to look for in these judges. We've seen how important our judges are, right? As we look at the Kyle Rittenhouse case, the Arbery case, so much power they have just in that courtroom, in the Jussie Smollett case. You can see the trial, you cannot see the trial. It's all up to them. They exercise their judicial discretion. So we're going to be talking about that next week. But today, what about what about this Supreme Court? They're rendering a lot of decisions that are taking us back, and they rendered another one that no one's really talking about that we are going to speak to in greater depth next week. Again, it's about your rights. Your rights once you've been arrested. You're going to be surprised at something that has been upended, thrown out the window. Everybody, let's get to it. It's going to be warm today in Chicago, but kind of beautiful. And, indeed, our vice president is going to be here later on this evening, speaking here in Chicago. And some great weather will greet her. 86 degrees will be our high, mostly sunny. In Minneapolis, St. Paul, 92 degrees, partly cloudy. The Dow closed up 194 points. The NASDAQ closed up 179 points, and the S&P 500 closed up 35 points yesterday. In Major League Baseball, the Orioles shut out the White Sox. Maybe they'll get back today or tonight when they play. The Pirates, just by one run, they bested the Cubs 8-7. Perhaps the Cubs will come back tonight when they play the Cardinals. And the Twins shut out the Guardians. Yay! Gotta pull for these home teams, everybody. That's right. And they'll be playing the Rockies later on tonight. In the NHL, we will see. Will Colorado pull it out tonight? We'll see. They're leading the series 3-1. The Lightning versus the Avalanche. We will have to see. The Stanley Cup trophy is on the line. In the WNBA, the Lynx 100, the Mercury 88, the Sky 82, the Sparks 89. So Chicago and Minneapolis St. Paul had a great night. And guess what? The Lynx will be playing the Sky on Sunday. Yay. Love it, love it, love it. Devastating. That is what they're calling the Supreme Court decision about state gun control laws. They're saying it blows a massive hole in state gun control efforts. And the now invalidated century-old New York law that required applicants for a concealed carry permit to demonstrate proper cause and good moral character before gaining state approval. The Supreme Court's right-wing majority deemed those requirements a violation of the Second Amendment. Several other states, California, Hawaii, Maryland, and Massachusetts, among them, have similar laws. They're saying that this is devastating. We're going to be talking about that today on the Santita Jackson Show. What do you think about that? Critics are saying that the new Supreme Court is giving the gun lobby, and really more appropriately, gun manufacturers. We need to get past the lobbies. We continue to go past their corporate masters. The gun lobby works for corporate America. They work for gun manufacturers. So they're giving gun manufacturers just what they paid for, everybody. The January 6th Select Committee hearing on Thursday shed new light on the role that former President Donald Trump's Republican allies in Congress played in furthering his efforts to try to overturn the election, and how many of them sought pardons. It was a whole lot of them, everybody. Indeed, they're being called the seditious six. Among them are Representatives Andy Biggs from Arizona, Louis Gohmert from Texas, Scott Perry from Pennsylvania. Marjorie Taylor Greene even asked the White House counsel's office for a pardon. That's right. And then we've got, according to the committee, Mo Brooks from Alabama emailed the White House 5 days after the deadly insurrection requesting preemptive pardons for Representative Matt Gaetz from Florida. Himself and every other congressman or senator who voted to reject the Electoral College vote submissions of Arizona and Pennsylvania. What do you think about that, everybody? Should they still be serving in Congress? What do you think? You let me know. In the meantime, the free school meal waivers are set to expire as the Senate has pushed an $857 billion military budget. And Senators Rand Paul, who's running against Charles Booker down in Kentucky, and then Marsha Blackburn are among the GOP senators opposing the extension of the school meal program. You know what? You all need to call 202-224-3121, 202-224-3121, and call their offices and ask them why they don't want to feed the children. How about that? That's right. Did you know that there is international support that is growing for Mexico's lawsuit against America's gun makers? Oh, yes. Did you know that? Did you know that America's gun makers are being sued by Mexico? They said you are responsible for the carnage in our country, and we want you to pay for it. They're suing them for $10 billion. The lawsuit was filed last year. I saw it yesterday when I was doing some research for the show, and I said, wow, You all we need to understand what this really, 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 really means. In the meantime, we have to look at the Miranda decision. The Miranda decision effectively was thrown out yesterday. We've got to talk about this. In a dangerous decision, legal experts have warned that law enforcement agencies will have zero incentive to ensure that a person being arrested has read their Miranda rights, everybody. After the Supreme Court, no one talked about this yesterday, handed down a ruling the ACLU characterized as a dangerous assault on long-established protections. The warnings mandated by the Supreme Court, the ACLU says, and Miranda have been part of the fabric of law enforcement interactions with the public for more than 60 years. In this ruling, the majority decided that people cannot sue an officer, a key under Section 1983, a key federal civil rights enforcement law, for not informing them of their right to remain silent and other protections under the Miranda statute. So Miranda effectively has been thrown out. So when you are arrested, they don't have to tell you anything. We're talking about what happened with the guns, but I promise you next week we will be talking about Miranda. We've got to talk about that. Let's get to, I need some good news. But I tell you what, I feel very good because with all of the rulings that are occurring, Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams, and you've got to get her book, I See You, Sis. I See You, Sis. You're going to love it. It's a real gift. It's making us, it can spur us to action. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's good for us to really understand what's really been going on, in our name. I think we just are living in a time of real blessings. It's tough, but I think we're going to, if we just hold on, we can come on through. It's so good to hear your voice this morning.
It's so great to hear yours, and I'm actually in your town.
What? How long are you going to be here?
I am here. I arrived about 2 a.m. this morning, and so excited to be here. I'm preaching this weekend here in Chicago.
Dr. Knighton's on the line.
I'm excited.
Let me know where you're going to be.
On here.
We're in the midst of this campaign, but if I can get by and give you a hug, I certainly will do that.
Fantastic. Absolutely.
And let everybody else know where you're going to be on Sunday here in Chicago.
Oh, I will. Absolutely. I am actually going to be here preaching for, there's 2 joint services for Bright Star Church Chicago. That's where I'll be for a 9 a.m. service, an 11 a.m. service, worshiping with Elder Chris Harris.
Okay.
So St. James Ministry Chicago and Bright Star Church Chicago. And we're going to be at 735 East 44th Street here in Chicago at 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. So I'd love to see some of the people that I preach for every Friday morning.
That's right, 735 East 44th Street on Sunday at 9 and at 11.
Correct.
That's right. Okay. All right. So that's right, Pastor. All right, Pastor. Let's get the good news.
Awesome. So I want to talk today about who knows. I'm thinking about Mordecai in the book of Esther. Mordecai adopted Esther after the death of her parents. And the most curious thing that theologians and scholars find about the book of Esther is that God is never mentioned. There are scholars who submit this curious fact has bothered a lot of people throughout history, and some resolve the tension by classifying Esther as a secular book, a book that moves the Old Testament from heaven to earth. And I don't have an issue with that because I'm grateful for a God that connects with us from heaven to earth, a God who sees about us from heaven to earth. I'm grateful for a God that specializes in both the sacred and the secular. God is not now, nor has ever been an absentee father. God is and always will be present. And while I'm no great theologian, I push back on the premise regarding the absence of God, because while many may not hear the name of God in the book of Esther, we do see God. I see God, our Father, in Mordecai as a father, because Mordecai did for Esther everything that God does for us. He adopted her. I'm told he's a mother to the motherless and father to the fatherless. He affirmed her. Greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. He advocated for her. Didn't Jesus say it? If I go not away, the advocate cannot come unto you. And he aligned with her just as we do. Draw near to God and he will draw near to you. Mordecai made Esther his own. He made Esther who she was and made a difference in her life, just as God does for us. So imagine my shock, Santita, when even Mordecai alludes to this illusion of the absence of providence when he poses the question, who knows? He says, who knows if perhaps you were made queen for just a time as this? And I wrestled with this, guys, because if anyone should know why Esther was made queen, it's Mordecai. Wasn't that the purpose of pouring into her? Nevertheless, as the text says, who knows? Who knows? And I want to talk to the people today who struggle with that question. Who knows? Who wrestles with every moment that you go through? Who knows? Here's the good news today. No matter what you go through, guess who knows? God knows. God knew who Esther was the whole time. God knew that Mordecai would pour into her life. God knew she had special gifts, talents, and abilities inside of her because God gave them to her. So who knows today? God knows. I know what you're thinking. I know you're wrestling with all sorts of things, but guess what? God knows. Even when you don't know what's going to happen next, God knows. And if God knows, that's all you need to know. So today, who knows what tomorrow holds? God knows. Who knows how many hairs are counted on your head? God knows. Who knows where your next meal is coming from? God knows. Who knows? God knows. Who knows if you're going to get that job? God knows. Who knows if your marriage is going to be restored? God knows. Who knows when your health is on the horizon? Who knows? God knows. Who knows that today is going to be brighter? Who knows that tomorrow is the day that phone call is going to come? Who knows if everything that you've been praying for late in the midnight hour and crying about is finally going to come into fruition? Who knows? God knows. The good news is today that your Father is not absent. God has never left your side. God is orchestrating everything that's happening in your life today. I want you to know today we serve a God of chess, not checkers. God is always 10 steps ahead. And so today, whatever you're wrestling with, however you're confused in life, rest assured. Who knows? God knows. And that's the good news.
Oh, I needed that today. I know somebody else needed that today. Amen, amen, amen. What everybody is saying. Amen, 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 amen. That's right, Jewel. I'm with you. God knows. God knows why you're going through. That's why you got to handle. That's why you got to hold on to the morning. Got to hold on.
Yes.
You don't know.
Yes.
God knows. God knows. God knows why. God knows why every circumstance you have found yourself in. God knows why you are there. There's something for you. I don't care how painful it is, everybody. There's something there for you. I don't care what your religious commitment is or isn't.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be where you are at this moment and in those other moments. They were for you. Designed to make you, oh, girl, don't you get me started this morning. Designed to make you who God needs you to be. Oh, I look back over my life. I remember this song. I've got a testimony. And I think things over. I can truly say I've been blessed. I've got a testimony. Oh,
yes, absolutely. Yes.
Get the book.
Nothing is wasted in God's time.
Nothing. I'm gonna bring. Stay right there. I'm gonna bring Pastor. I'm gonna bring Dr. Shanita Knighton on because I know this spoke to her today. Everything you go through, you grow through. If you hold on, you need to see Pastor Tisha. You know, our beloved Pastor Tish at 735 East 44th Street on Sunday. 735 East 44th Street. I know Maria wants to see her. Maria Rodriguez. I know she does. She's always waiting for you. And I mean, look, let's just do this. Sing it, Santita. You know what? I just might get over there and do that on Sunday. I love you, love you, love you. Everybody get the book. I see you, sis. I see you, sis. Hey, Dr. Knighton. What about that message for you this morning? That is a message.
Oh, it was. That was good.
I mean, honey, God knows. And what about that expression? God knows. God knows.
Yes.
Well, you know what? I do have a question for you this morning. And but you can speak about whatever it is that you choose because we're trying to find out how to make it through the pandemic in which we still find ourselves. Interestingly, they're saying that long COVID can affect children, including infants. What does that mean? I mean, and what is COVID exactly? Long COVID.
So long COVID is symptoms that persist. I believe it's longer than 3 months. So there's controversy. Some places you'll see longer than 6 months. You'll see longer than 3 months. But at the end of the day, it's still longer than the duration that you would have a typical cold or expected to have a cold, right? I mean, a cold or like COVID, rather. So unfortunately, it's a situation of where, let's say you have symptoms that might be bothering you that you may have not otherwise had before COVID. Some people might have a persistent long cough. Some people might have heart palpitations. Somebody might literally end up with a situation where their kidneys stop working effectively, or they had mismanaged diabetes, meaning that COVID threw their blood sugars out of whack and they're able to, it's a hard time to get them back on track. So there's so many things that comes out of this. And I actually put up a post, Santita, and this was a long time ago. I'm talking about, this was like, I'm going to say March or April of 2020. And in the post, it said that H1N1, gave us infertility. It said Zika gave neurological deficits, meaning that it impacted the brain. You have HPV, which gave us cancer, right? I'm talking about all viruses, meaning that all of these viruses had something lingering behind, that it ended up having some sort of side effect.
Wow.
In this particular with COVID, because we know that COVID impacted our ACE2 receptors, which I keep talking about. Our ACE2 receptors are, I would say, they like these energy packs, essentially, that send messages. They're located everywhere. They're in your brain, they're in your heart, they're in your lungs, they're in your liver, they're in your kidneys, they're everywhere in your brain, everywhere in your body, okay? And so COVID wreaked havoc on those ACE2 receptors. That's why, even though they told us, oh, this is a respiratory infectious disease and this is a coronavirus, this particular coronavirus had the ability to impact so many other systems beyond what it is that we could have ever imagined or ever thought of. And that's the problem. So now when someone says like, oh, I just got a mild case of COVID, you don't know internally what it was doing. You don't know if, let's say, a cough going to show up. You don't know if it's going to be the ringing in the ears. It's people that were athletes before they can't go back to working out now. It's people that, said, oh, well, I'm used to only having a cold for X amount of days of being healthy, whose immune systems have shut down. Even, too, the work has not been done right now, Santita, but I'm telling you, outside of screening measures and people being diagnosed with cancer, we don't know if some of those ACE2 receptors being impacted by COVID made people's bodies convert cancer that might have just been lingering or made people's cancer come back active. We do not know. But the thing is that we do know is that people that have been impacted by it have not shown up to be the best version of themselves after COVID. Now, when it comes to children, and I'm specifically going to speak about infants, okay? Mothers that had COVID, there was a study that came out that showed that mothers that had got COVID during their pregnancy, and especially those that had it during their third trimester, their babies were at risk for some sort of neurological defect. And unfortunately, you saw kids with that issue. Think about the amount of stillborn babies, that were witnessed. Think about the amount of kids that may have shown up with some sort of defect. It is, unfortunately, they're finding not necessarily causation. So I want to be clear about that. I'm not telling you that COVID caused it, but I am saying that women that ended up with COVID-19 did end up at a higher risk. and were more likely to have a child with neurological issues compared to somebody that did not have COVID.
Wow.
So
You've always
when
said
I'm
that
saying that
prevention is better
I
than
know,
treatment.
that's it. And I only got 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to tell people it's a sin, and I think that it is so important. And that's the fact that we have to stop thinking about what do we want to give up. It's the reason people fail is because they give up what they want most for what they want now.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw this somewhere, and I thought about how applicable that is. We have to stop thinking about, I want to go to this party and I want to be upset if your overall objective is to have health. You want health most.
Absolutely.
If you want health most, you have to make those sacrifices.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why you're here every day trying to tell us what we need to do. Back in just a minute. Let's talk with State Senator Jackie Collins about her run for the congressional office, the 1st Congressional District here in Illinois. Back in just a minute. Thank you, sweetie. I appreciate you. Let me run on to this next interview. But yep, you know what, you need to talk about that because I can tell you. But look, the thing is, we've been told so many things. I mean, with all due respect.
Yeah.
That's
why I tell people they don't want it. How many times have I been saying that? I say you just don't want it. The problem is it's just mild. Just get the vaccinated so your symptoms won't be bad. I tell people, can we normalize just not getting it? Can we normalize like I don't want to have it? Like that is the big thing to me is just not get it. Like let's say, hey, you know what? I'm doing all of this stuff because the whole goal is to not get COVID. Now let's say you got COVID. The goal ain't to give up. The goal is to say, I don't want it again because if maybe I did escape it, having
Senator Collins is on the line.
it might not be the case next time because COVID-19 the first time could have primed my body for something worse the second. So I don't want it a second time. If you'd had it twice, say I don't want it a third. The goal is to prevent it, not treat it.
All right, everybody. You heard it. That's why you need to be careful. And please wear your masks this weekend. Not outdoors, but indoors, in cars. Please do that. Oh, please, please, please take care of yourselves. Please, 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 please. So I'm sending you much love, girly girl, and I will talk with you. I'll talk with you this weekend for sure.
Yes, we will.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
We'll talk soon. Have a great show.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Senator Collins, how are you?
I'm awake.
Oh, please. Everybody, she's up early. She's up early and works late. So there you have it. So I'm not going to even pay attention to that. You've always been a hard worker. But thank you for coming on so early. Because, of course, you were supposed to be on at 7. But with the Supreme Court decision, we needed to, and of course, you can weigh in on that because these are things that you're going to be weighing on if you go to Washington and certainly here in the state of Illinois. These are real issues we got to deal with. And
trying times.
Yeah, and they also had a decision on Miranda yesterday.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
They're not talking about it. They basically threw it out. I'll send it. I'll text it to you. It's like,
sure.
Are you serious? The Supreme Court found that you do not have to read people their Miranda rights. Bottom line, you don't have to do it. You don't now. Miranda's been thrown out. What's that been around? What, 50, 60 years? All of my life. It's the Vega versus Takeo case, I believe it is. I might not be pronouncing it correctly. The majority decided that people cannot sue an officer under Section 1983, a key federal civil rights enforcement law, for not informing them of their right to remain silent. Thank you, Paul. And other protections under the Miranda statute. You don't have to do it now.
You know what? That, the consideration of enlarging the Supreme Court, with the direction that the Supreme Court is taking now, it's been taken over by the tyranny of the Republicans. Leah always talked about
10 seconds.
having a Supreme Court that.
5 seconds.
Well, no, hold on, because we're coming up. You know what? Do you want me to ask you about that?
Okay. Well, yeah, you can.
Well, I want you to start off with, just stay right here. I got you.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's Friday, June 24th, 2022. My number is 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. Let's talk about June 28th. Early voting in Illinois is ongoing until the 27th, and then you can vote on the 28th. I hope that you will vote. 73 polling places have been closed around Chicago, but if you go to affecting almost 120,000 voters. But if you go to vote.org, you can find out where specifically you can vote in your neighborhood. You can go to one of the super sites for sure, but you can find out where you can go vote in your neighborhood, That's important, vote.org. But while you're there, you should also find out if your name has been pushed from the voter rolls. That's been happening by the millions all over the country for years. It's ongoing. We haven't talked about it a lot. We talk about it all the time on this show, but it's not part of the national discussion, and it ought to be. So I wanted to bring to you, I've been trying to get people from particularly the 1st Congressional District, this congressional race on. We've had Daly Ramirez, who Chuy Garcia has endorsed. She could become the 3rd Latina from Congress, the 1st Latina elected from this region. But we need to talk about this particular seat. This is the longest held seat by a Black person in the history of the United States. And of course, we've had Bobby Rush, former Black Panther, known community servant for more than 60 years. He has held this seat for more than 30 years. And now we can't believe it. He is retired. And now, first it was 21, now it's 14 people going after the seat. And one of the most, really in the top tier of those who are pursuing the seat is this brilliant state senator who is just, someone for whom I have tremendous regard, brilliant lawyer, former journalist, Emmy Award nominee. And I remember when you were at CBS TV. Isn't that amazing? But you've had quite the life, because you have moved around, but you've always lived in service of people. State Senator Jacqueline Collins, my mom's name, so I have a soft spot for you.
Yes.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Santina. It's an honor to be on this show with you, a family that I respect tremendously. Your father has really placed democracy at the forefront of his agenda to bring equity, fairness into the public realm. And so I just thank you for being from such a legacy family of contributions and public service.
Oh, of course. And you are a sister of Mississippi. We love it. We love it. We love it. We love it. And you've done so much. You've just got such a varied background that really has prepared you for all the things that you've been doing and for this moment. Why, you've been a journalist. I mean, you have a background in divinity. I remember when you had me speak at St. Sabina more than 20 years ago, I was frightened to death. I was like, why is she doing this to me? You thought I'd forgotten about that. I never did. But but you've looked at government, you've looked at theology, you have been a communicator. I mean, you're an Emmy Award nominated journalist. Why at this point in your life would you, and now you're in the state Senate, and we now see just how important the state legislatures are. I mean, you control so much. We didn't know that until we ran into these headwinds with the presidential elections, right? We just didn't know all that you do. What can you do that would increase your footprint going to Washington? Because you're one of the most powerful state senators in the state of Illinois. And like I said, I never knew just how much power. Well, I guess we do with Mike Madigan, right? But being in the state legislature is a big deal. But what is it about Washington that you find most compelling at this point?
Well, I think there's only so much you can do on the issues that have been important to me over my career as a state legislator. So, in the urgency of now, we have the voting rights suppression, the rise of white supremacy, and the attack on our reproductive rights. So the issues that I'm really concerned with is the proliferation of guns in our community. I've been fighting against gun violence for the last 30 years. I'm a member of St. Sabina, Father Flagler. I march every Friday night. I've been marching every Friday night during the summer months against this gun violence. And so we have very good gun restrictive laws here in Illinois. The problem is the guns that are coming in from Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin. And just the other day, there was a die-in outside of Riverdale's shop, Chuck's Gun Shop, right? So there's only so much you can do on the state level. What we need to do is federally restrict guns. And I know there's been a gun legislation passed by the Senate, I think yesterday. That's going before the House. But even then, the argument between whether or not we need to raise the age between 18 to 21 for someone to buy an assault weapon was somewhat, didn't really get at the issue. I believe we just need to ban assault weapons altogether. It's not a matter of age. Assault weapon is a weapon of destruction, and so of death. We needed to ban assault weapons across the board. Of course, I'm somewhat encouraged by the legislation that will go to the House, but we need to do more. And so that's one of the issues why we need to take it to the federal level. But also, as former chair of financial institutions, my passion has been, and the pursuit has been, how do you close the wealth gap between Black and white communities and families? So, as you know, that I stopped all predatory lending in the state of Illinois. What that looks like is that prior to this, in our community, we have these payday lenders like every other block almost. And so it puts families into a cycle of debt. So I've been able to restrict or hold banks accountable here, especially state-chartered banks, accountable in the state of Illinois. But I need to move on to the federal banks, right? I have no control of the federal banks. And so that's one reason I needed to go. Would love to serve, like Jonathan, I would love to serve on the Financial Services Committee because that's where I think I can make the greatest impact. I even put forth let me go back to explain what stopping predatory lending looks like. So prior to my legislation, a payday lender could charge over close to 300% of interest. And the average person takes out about 5 loans at a time because usually when the day for payment arrives, they're in a bind and they find themselves having to take out another payday loan just to keep food on the table or access to a job or to pay for medicine. And so I thought it was important to put a cap on the interest rate because, it's usury. So I was able to cap it at 36%, and most people would say that's usury as well. But that was compared to 300%, even with the auto loans. So the legislation I put in place caps all small installment loans, auto loans, title loans, as well as the payday lenders. So we know that auto title loans, there was no cap whatsoever. And so you have people paying over 400% in interest. So that was important for me to pursue, to protect, to get our families out of a cycle of debt, right? Because our community, many of them are in pain. There's so many issues that they have to deal with, especially as we're facing inflation as well. So, that's why I thought on the federal level, there would be much more that I could do. I would love to work with Elizabeth Warren. I like her vision and where she wants to take the country as it relates to bringing equity and giving some kind of financial stability. So those are the reasons I primarily, and to go after the repressive and racist structures that have continually stifled the economic growth, especially in the Black community. So those are some of the reasons, but also, of course, the attack on a woman's right to choose. So in Illinois, we were able to codify Roe versus Wade. So we need to do that on the federal level as well. And for my LGBTQ comrades and constituents, their rights are threatened as well with the Roe versus Wade attack, because I think it's really about privacy more or less than anything else.
But please explain the concept of privacy, because that's something, when lay people hear that, you're a lawyer. When we hear that, we're like, what does that mean?
That means the government can come in and determine what rights you have or rights that they can abuse in reference to how you go forth in your daily activities, things that are behind your door in your bedroom, right? So it means that they can determine what your liberties are concerning your body or your interactions, like it would affect Virginia versus Love, which was the case where dealt with privacy because marriage, right? Interracial marriage. So things like that, because the argument is Alito made was that it was not in the Constitution. So whatever was not in the Constitution, he's a originalist, I imagine, like Scalia. But what was not originally in the Constitution, there is no guarantee that you have that particular right. But then, of course, we know that we were not considered completely human. We were 3/5.
And he was barely that. I mean, as an Italian American, he was not even considered to be white at the time.
Yes,
right?
And so it's very dangerous where we're headed as a country. And so I think that that's why it's important to be there. We need to, it's a matter of, I believe, we have to retain the House. I mean, the Democrats have to retain the House. I'm afraid of where this country would be headed if, in fact, we lose the House. And then you've seen what the Senate has been able to do, with the George Floyd. I mean, not moving on issues that are so important to the well-being of our community. We can't even get any kind of accountability, in reference to law enforcement. I just think that we have to wake up as a society and really become engaged. And I'm begging our millennials to be engaged in the process. This is a time we need our youth to save us as a country. They need to get out and vote because, when they vote, it becomes more of a democracy because they raise their voice. They find their agency. And I want our millennials to find their agency and to come out because we're really fighting for them and their future. And so I want them to understand that.
Well, then let me ask you this, because as you speak of the young people, because I know you do have a passion for our youth and for our children and really for our families just overall, because as you look at, your passion for financial literacy and for financial and economic justice, I could put that more broadly. Would that be fair, Senator Collins?
Yeah, that's good. Yes, that's true.
Yeah, well, I mean, because that's really what this is. I mean, because when you go into the Black community, particularly Inglewood, which has a life expectancy 30 years below that of the North Shore, which is stunning.
Yes.
I want to know, when we look at all of these schools that were closed, primarily in the Black and brown communities, specifically in the Black communities, our children lost a lot during the pandemic, and then they didn't have schools to return to. And when you have all of these technological leaps and advances that are occurring right now, Senator, I mean, please, you've been to Loyola, Northwestern, Harvard. I mean, no one has a more stellar education than you. Our children don't even have access to that. I mean, let alone have access to, we saw during the pandemic, they needed computers. They didn't have those. And if they had computers, when I drive into Inglewood or when I ride into Inglewood, my Wi-Fi will go down because, they're not fully covered. It happens all the time. What can we do about those things? Because, you have electric cars now. I mean, everything is changing. My nieces and nephews teach me things all the time because I'm trying to keep up.
Yes. Our community is under attack. Our youth are under attack, whether it's the gun violence or just a lack of access to opportunity. food deserts. We're closing stores, so they don't even get a healthy diet, to keep their brains active, right?
Because they're closing the Whole
opportunity.
Foods that was, that they just
Yes.
opened. Why?
Yes. So, I grew up in Inglewood.
Mhm.
And so, to my advantage, I had the privilege of having a parent that felt that education was key and made the sacrifice to send me to a parochial school, a Catholic school, to ensure that I got the education. But even with the closing of the 50 or more schools, which I fought against, and I think that when we have to look around, we have to get to the streets. We have to go back into the streets again. We have lost the energy and the passion to protest. We have to raise our voices and embarrass the elected officials that continually let the policies go forth that really penalize and cripple our youth. And I think that I would hope that our parents would get more engaged in the future of their children. I think we've lost how can I say, we've lost that desire and the commitment to our children. I mean, I just think I do think it starts in the home. But if you have generations and generations of parents that did not have opportunity, that legacy of poverty is passed on. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, we have so much to do. How do we go back? We've lost almost a generation, and the COVID didn't help at all as well, right? So we've lost, it's just that we're trying to dig out of decades and decades of disinvestment, spiritual disinvestment, as well as economic disinvestment. It's what it boils down to. I think the only thing that we can't piecemeal, it can't be incremental. I think we really have to look at some form of reparations because the damage has been too great. And something has to be done on that level of bringing massive relief, a new deal of the magnitude that we saw when Roosevelt put in the New Deal. We need something of that magnitude now, because that's the only way we're going to dig ourselves out of the demise that we're in right now.
Well, particularly since Black people coming out of slavery became we became the model community, right, Senator Collins? But then you literally drop a bomb. The first bomb dropped on American soil was dropped by white Americans on Black Americans who developed a prosperous community in Tulsa. So, and we've had figurative bombs. You're from Mississippi. And we all ended up in Chicago and Detroit and Memphis. We migrated here because we were running from the South because we were terrorized out of there, or we were starved out on those plantations, also known. Well, that's what they were. When you were a sharecropper, you're on a plantation.
Yes.
So which I would imagine fuels your drive for economic justice. So, just where do you think, I just heard you say something that I know I could talk to you forever, that I don't hear, I think, enough Democrats in particular saying. You brought the spiritual element into your public policy. Why do you think that's important?
Well, my philosophical mentor and my role model of how you impact policy that uplifts all people is Dr. King. I came out of, my formation was in the late 60s and 70s. And so I saw how Dr. King, from a position of faith, was able to basically transform not only the social landscape of America, but the economic and political landscape of America. And so I believe that faith is key to our survival as a people, right? We know our worth because we know we've been created in the image of God and we're here for a purpose. I think our children, in addition to Black history, they need to know that they have been endowed with the DNA of a supreme being that makes going through life, walking through life, getting over the barriers, giving them a sense of hope. When our children lose hope, you lose your way in life. And I think that our faith has been our armament, has been our safeguard, our guardrails against the onslaught of racism in this society. I think we walk by faith to get through the hurt and the pain. We are survivors basically because of our faith, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that many of our youth have turned away from the church. And it's not about religion, it's about relationship. It's about a relationship, knowing that you have value, that you have worth. And that's how you move through life. That's how you move out in the world, knowing that you're here for a purpose and you have a contribution to make.
Let me ask you this. You have really championed teaching our children about money, about finances, about their rights, about where they live, how they live, not just as homeowners, but as renters, because renters have rights too. Do you think we need that kind of legislation and that kind of push on a national level?
Well, I think, yes. One of the reasons that I think we have to work hand in hand, we do need financial literacy to keep our families from falling into the traps that we saw back in 2008 with the mortgage, the onslaught of foreclosures, because we were offered these false promises that by getting subprime mortgages, it was a way of prosperity for the Black community, which has not been the case. It wiped out a whole generation of progress and equity in our community. That's why it's so important. But I think also, it has to start when a child is, I would love to see something like what they call, and we've tried to do it in Illinois, that we have some kind of baby bonds where when a child is born, that we educate the parent and put in maybe $25 or $50 that they open a bank account in the name of the child. And then as the child grows, they put in $1 or something. They understand how they can build starting from birth. And we give them that opportunity to have at least at birth a $10, $100, I would say like $100 into a fund that the child could actually oversee at 8 years old, 9 years old, and 10 years old. We know that John Rogers always talks about how his dad taught him at the kitchen table how to look at stocks. Like I think he might have been 10, 12, or 13-year-old. And we can do that with our children as well, to show them the importance, how they can have control over how they build and understand the value of the dollar.
Well, I've got 2 minutes left. I want you to have them because I want people to know what they can expect from you should you go to Washington, D.C.
Well, I think for all the issues confronting the 1st Congressional District, no one has a more progressive record of legislative accomplishments. So I'm not running on rhetoric. I'm running on a record. And as you know, my campaign is named Jackie for Justice because justice has been rooted in my legislative career, and it forms the foundation, economic, social, and racial justice. And so I think that what I'm trying to do and hope to do is to continue my fight to dismantle the oppressive, repressive, and discriminatory barriers that have continually imprisoned our youth and hardworking families. So the things that I've been able to do was chief co-sponsor raising the minimum wage, led in nursing home reform, stopped all predatory lending. I even established a task force to look at the high infant and maternal morbidity of Black women. So these are the things that I've been passionate about, and I want to go to Congress to continue that progress and that fight for justice, to give justice a seat at the policy table in Washington, D.C.
Jackie for Justice now. It's spelled JACQUI for Justice.
Yes.
Look, I'm telling you, I understand that name so well.
We always say the spelling of Jackie, right? A creative way of for Jackie.
Absolutely, I love it. But just again, how can people connect with you and support you?
They can go to my website, JackieForJustice.com.
Okay. All right. Blessings to you, State Senator Jackie Collins. I'm so glad that you were able to get on the show. I called you at the beginning of the cycle, and I know, please, you're a state senator. Everybody's pulling at you all the time. I'm so glad that you were able to make the time to be on this show. Blessings to you. Come on,
blessings to you and your family.
Oh, my love to you. My love to you. Of course, she worked in the Jackson campaign in '84. And so we've known each other a long time, sending her much, 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 much love. God bless you. God bless you. And you know, to fully disclose, I am Jackal. I am Jonathan Jackson's sister. But we do not have enemies in this race. We have opponents. Yeah, maybe slightly different points of view. But I will always love Jackie Collins, and I really appreciate that you came on the show today because it's your platform. I'm just a steward.
Thank you so much, Santita.
Sending love you very much, and please give my love to Father Flager. You know I love him, and Saint Savannah, one of my home churches. Absolutely, everybody. Let's talk about what happened with gun rights. It seems like we're turning America into the OK Corral. Back in just a minute. Santita Jackson Show. State Senator Collins.
Yes.
I hope you were satisfied with that because I was just trying to give you the runway to speak.
Thank you, and you did. Thank you so much. My brain cells don't work so well this early in the morning, but you know what? I'll be back. I thank you for the opportunity. Yes.
Oh, come on. You don't have to thank me for it.
I greatly admire what you do. I just totally respect you and your family. And I told Jonathan it's not personal. It's just I think that once this is over, we'll be back hugging, loving, kissing each other again.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that what we have to do, you remember when President Preckwinkle and now Mayor Lightfoot ran, how Reverend had the needed push the day after the election. Just to have a rapprochement that was public. Even though that's not the kind of race that we're having, it's not that contentious. It's not, you know, there were some burnt feelings. There really were. That's not where we are. And I want people to know that. I think it's important that you can disagree without being disagreeable. You know, certainly Senator Collins has had some differences of opinion with my brother, and they've had differences of opinion with each other. And so what? We've got to move forward, everybody. After Tuesday, we all have to come together. I don't care win, lose, or draw, and make the 1st congressional district, the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, and all of them. Make them work for all of us. And this woman is too brilliant and too talented to ever be sidelined. And I just thank God for all that you have been doing down through the years, and just for really being just such a lovely, elegant woman, showing us that it can be done that way. In this rugged environment, you are the best.
Thank you so much. And you know, we both had Gus Savage as mentors.
Oh, come on, you know, remember I worked for him when I was in college. Oh, don't get me started.
I know.
I miss it. I miss that man. Oh my gosh. Oh wow. I miss him.
So Drella and Tommy Savage are part of my campaign.
Are they really?
Yes, they're the ones that told me when Rush stepped down. They said, "Jackie, you have to run because of Gus." Yes.
Oh, please, you know what? Please give them my love. You know, I went to high school with Emma.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, she was ahead of me, but we were at Whitney Young together.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
And Tommy was always in the office. He was so helpful when I was working for Congressman Savage. You know, because of course, Luana got me my apartment, the former deputy governor.
Okay.
Yes, because I chose the wrong one. They didn't like it. They didn't approve.
Yeah. So Luana's my campaign manager.
You know, I love her. And, you know, we've got to do more to lift her up because many people don't know just how brilliant she is. And
that's right. And she's a survivor too.
Oh, well, you know, when she was diagnosed with cancer when I was in the office.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And so it was a lot because it was just devastating to all of us, but it really, you know, brought Congressman Savage down because, of course, his wife had suffered with it. And then right after he finally won and got this congressional seat, she passed away. And so, you know, it was a lot. And she kept powering through, you know, just you were like, I looked up and she walked in the office one day. We were like, what is she doing in here?
Yeah. That survived. She's from Louisiana.
Absolutely.
But that Southern stamina, that Southern strength of her and purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've lost something, our connectivity to what it means to come from the South. I think the South gave us a perseverance,
Mm-hmm.
a fight,
Absolutely.
perseverance. And we've lost it because we've lost our grandparents, right? So many of us have lost our grandparents.
Well, the old values, right? I mean, look, our parents were had by their parents, were birthed by their parents when they were teenagers. So don't tell me about young parents. It's the values that are gone.
Yes.
Sometimes when I go to
yes.
these churches, I feel like I'm at a club. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I said it. I said it. I said it. You didn't say it. The senator did not say that. So she should not lose a vote from you over that. That's me. What? Well, that's how I feel. You don't have to say anything until after Tuesday.
Okay, great. Okay.
Oh my goodness. And thank Ms. Dienstag for being so persistent. She was wonderful. And of course, give Deputy Governor Luana Peters my love. I love her. And the Savages, I love them. I love you.
Yes, thank you so much, Santina. Love you too. Have a great day.
Absolutely. See you on Tuesday.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. God bless. All right, everybody, let's move forward. And let's see, who do we have on? Paul Chivari. Let's see, we have, let's just keep on. We have David Swanson. Hey. And LaTanya Ruffin. Hello. We got Patillo. Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. I'm so glad that you all are here. We're not going to have the ghost in the machine, David Swanson, unless you start talking about the military industrial complex.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh, that's what happened yesterday, everybody. We went out. We were talking about this military industrial complex and everything went down. So everybody like and share. I'm not, bumping into a lot of you who are telling us that you watch the show. It's really amazing. And it doesn't quite show up here. But my mother was even surprised. And my mother's a tough one, everybody. She gives no quarter to anyone. She is like, she tells you when she thinks you've done well. And she gets you when she thinks you have not done well. But she said, she said, I am surprised. A lot of people listen to the show. So everybody, please like and
Mr.
share
McKee
and
is
let
on the
me
line.
know. I'm sorry, Paul.
Mr. McKee, he's
okay,
on the line.
fantastic. Everybody, let us know if you want to do a picnic or something like that when it kind of...
We're coming back in 10 seconds.
Thank you. In the dog days of the heat. But I do want to get together with you all before the summer is out. Stay right there.
Okay.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show, Friday, June 24th, 2022. I'm Santita Jackson, coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. We're streaming on WCPT820.com, AM950Radio.com. And please join my morning stars on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. The Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Everybody, please like and subscribe and share. Everyone who's watching today, please share. If you're listening, please tell somebody about us. We've been growing, and we just thank God for you passing the word. And, of course, the Santita Jackson and Friends, Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page. That is where I can be found, and that's where I can be friended. I can't do anything else on the Santita Jackson landing page. So everybody get on over to Santita Jackson and Friends. We're going to be talking about the Supreme Court decision on guns. Many people have said that this is dangerous. It's opening the door to turn America into the wild, wild west. What do you think about that? What do you think about that? Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. Let's get to some of these headlines. In Chicago, we'll have a high of 86 degrees today, mostly sunny. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 92 degrees, partly cloudy. The Dow closed up 194 points yesterday. The Nasdaq closed up 179 points. The S&P 500 closed up 35 points. In Major League Baseball, the Orioles shut out the White Sox. Perhaps they will redeem themselves when they play tonight against the Orioles. The Pirates 8, the Cubs 7. They'll be facing the Cardinals. The Cubs will tonight. And the Twins shut out the Guardians 1-0. They'll be playing the Rockies tonight. In the NHL, who's going to take home the trophy? Will it be Colorado? What do you think? They're leading the series 3-1. The Lightning will be playing the Avalanche tonight. We will see who will get that gigantic Stanley Cup trophy. In the WNBA, the Lynx were triumphant over the Mercury 100-88, the Sky 82, the Sparks 59, and the Lynx and the Sky will be meeting on Sunday. Can't wait to see that, everybody. Pastor Tisha Williams, who gives us the good news every Friday, will be at preaching here in Chicago at 9/11 on Sunday, 735 East 44th Street, 735 East 44th Street. Go on and meet her there, everybody. What about this devastating ruling they're saying that blows a massive hole in state gun control efforts? We will see what all of that means when we talk with our panel about that. What say you? 773-763-9278. Critics are saying that the Supreme Court has given the gun lobby just what it paid for. But be more specific, everybody. It's not the gun lobby. The gun lobby is paid by the gun manufacturers. This is what they paid for. The January 6th Select Committee hearings on Thursday shed new light on the role that former President Trump played in this insurrection. And more than that, we got a chance to see what his allies have done. Indeed, there's a group called the Seditious Six, GOP lawmakers who sought pardons from him. Indeed, if you seek a pardon, you've done something wrong and you know it. Among those who sought pardons from President Trump, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Louis Gohmert from Texas, Scott Perry from Pennsylvania, Andy Biggs from Arizona. According to the committee, Representative Mo Brooks asked for one for himself. Of course, he's a Republican from Alabama. And he said, please, we want one for Matt Gaetz. Wow, who wanted one for anything he had ever done in life. Okay. Maybe you can answer that question. The free school meal waivers program is set to expire as the Senate is expanding, pushing this $857 billion military budget. What do you think about that? And what about this decision on Miranda rights? Legal experts warned law enforcement agencies will have zero incentive to ensure that a person being arrested is read their Miranda rights after the U.S. Supreme Court yesterday handed down a ruling that the ACLU characterized as a dangerous assault on a long-established protection. For more than 60 years, we've had the Miranda rights, everybody. But now, police do not have to read you your rights. What do you think about that? Your right to remain silent and other Miranda protections. What do you think about that? Well, guess what? The 6-3 decision effectively guts the law. So we're going to be talking about that more next week on the Santita Jackson Show. But in the meantime, we've been fighting for financial freedom, just as we were talking with State Senator Jackie Collins about. Go to Team Hochberg. Whatever your problem is, if you have massive credit card debt, if you can't get a credit card, if your credit is poor, if you're trying to build your credit, if you want to purchase a new home, if you think purchasing a home is beyond your grasp, go to Team Hochberg. If you need to refinance your existing home, call Team Hochberg. If you need to secure a VA loan, if you want to find out what a reverse mortgage is and if that could work for you, call Team Hochberg. You have a free consultation at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or go to 56david.com, 56david.com. Tell them all about it. They've heard it all, and they can get you out of a jam, everybody. Pete posted this 5-star Google review after saving over $800 a month. That's almost $10,000 a year, everybody. After completing a cash-out refinance with the help of Team Hochberg. He said, quote, what a great lender. He heard David Hochberg giving great advice on several radio stations, including this one. He said it sounded too good to be true, but his team is amazing. A big shout out to Team Hochberg. And he wants to tell everybody about his great experience. Put Team Hochberg, Hocberg, in the browser and go to Google reviews. You'll see for yourself. There are over 200 5-star reviews, and you can be one of, you can add to that number. You can be one of those persons too. So please call 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or visit 56david.com. Don't be embarrassed. The studies have shown that people who make $100,000 a year in the United States of America, 36%, nearly 40%, are living from paycheck to paycheck, barely making it. That's happening to a lot of people. And guess what? They can help you to find your way. Let's get to this Supreme Court decision. What does it mean, everybody? What does it mean? Very quickly, as we have this tremendous panel, only a couple of people are going to be cycling in and out, so I want to get to them rather quickly. We've got Dwight McKee, Dr. D, of course. We've got David Swanson returning to us, World Beyond War, the author of War is a Lie, one of the world's great peace activists. Attorney Robert Patillo, Southeastern Regional Director for Rainbow Push, radio host at WAOK on Sundays. Of course, we have got Jennifer Bishop Jenkins, gun violence family survivor, former National Program Director for Victims and Survivors from the Brady Campaign. But we're going to start with you. She is, of course, running for sheriff here in the county of Cook. And we want to hear from you, LaTanya Ruffin, because you are part of law enforcement. What does this decision mean to you?
Well, first of all, good morning, Santita.
Good morning.
I like to always start off saying, giving honor to God who's head of my life. And of course, I want to thank you and your show, your beautiful family, your dad, Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr., also Jonathan Jackson, who's running for Congress. Your family is amazing.
Oh, bless your
mom,
heart.
Like you said, your mom, tell it like it is. I love her. I feel
too.
like I'm the family. You know, they make you feel your family is just so embracing. And I just want to thank the entire Jackson family.
Thank
Also,
you.
yes, I am in law enforcement. And actually, I just got out of roll call.
Mhm.
But, I was asking a couple of my officers this morning, well, actually my lieutenant and my sergeant, what they think. But also, I just want to say this is a very sensitive issue. So you have to be careful of what you say about this issue. You want to say, yes, I agree to the law-abiding citizens should have the right to bear arms and protect themselves. However, our government has to do a better job at screening people who are buying these guns. We really must do better screening. My personal belief is I don't think an 18-year-old should have the ability to purchase an assault rifle. And unless you are a professional that would justify you of having an assault rifle, or a person should not be able to purchase that type of weapon. Further, if a person attempts to buy that type of weapon, there should be something placed to flag him or her. You know, I feel that when we go and purchase our weapons as officers, we have to have a letter to show we got permission to buy these guns. So it should be something from state to state in place for people to purchase it. That way, if they don't have it and why they're buying it, then it should be flagged. And let me be clear. I respect the Second Amendment, but it's when those guns are placed in the wrong hands, mass shootings happens that kills innocent children. Oh, man, especially that Texas. That's my concern. And I just think now the Supreme Court ruling is out. Its ruling is out. It's up to these individual states to put forth better regulations to protect its citizens. I just think from state to state, we're going to have to do better.
Well, I thank you for that. I mean, who better to hear from than law enforcement? But I think we all have a dog in this hunt. I mean, because according to the Los Angeles Times, the Supreme Court yesterday upheld the rights of gun owners to carry a loaded weapon in public, ruling that the Second Amendment right to, quote, bear arms, close quote, overrides laws in California and New York that restrict who may legally take guns when they leave home. It just feels like this is turning into the OK Corral. Let me go around my panel and find out what they think. Thank you so much, LaTanya Ruffin, on the ballot here in Chicago on, Early voting is occurring right now. And of course, you'll be on the ballot on Tuesday. Blessings to you. I'm so glad that you were able to join us this morning. Robert Patillo, what do you make of this? Yes. LaTanya, very
I'm
quick.
going to jump off and hit this. Yeah, I'm going to thank you again. And you're right. It's becoming the Wild Wild West.
That's what it's feeling
I
like.
just want to thank you. And I feel like, as an officer, we like the firemen. We go into the fire. When they say shots fired, we have to go. When there's a fireman, they have to go into the fire. So, it's becoming the Wild Wild West out here. But again, thank you. Wonderful family. And I'm going to jump off because I got to get in my vehicle. But again, everybody, please, please, please be safe out here. LaTanya Ruffin.
Bless your heart.
Your next county sheriff. All right. Have a blessed day.
Bless your heart. Robert
Bye-bye.
Patillo, your thoughts about this ruling. And it's ironic that on the same day, we see what's happened to Miranda has been thrown out. But let's stay right here. Gun owners they've just effectively lifted restrictions on gun ownership and, who can carry it, how you can carry it in public. Ooh, Robert Patillo.
Well, it's interesting because effectively the Supreme Court rewrote the Second Amendment. Because if you read the text of the Second Amendment, it says a well-regulated militia being necessary for a free state. What the Supreme Court has said is you can take the words well-regulated out. They've all but made it illegal for there to be any sorts of state regulations on firearm ownership in the individual capacity. So the question is, how does that expand out when it comes to other constitutional rights? And what's the progeny of this case? Because as you know, Supreme Court cases, they never stick to just the subject matter that decision is about. So if it's let's say Roe, which was decided on the issue of medical privacy, well, that may be influence cases that are about vaccine mandates 50 years down the line. So it's going to be interesting to see how this is applied to other constitutional rights, particularly in the realm of voting, particularly in the realm of political speech, those sorts of things, because it seems to be a very expansive idea of the basically resetting the way that the rights of the individual comport with the right of the local state in order to make decisions. This is antithetical to what Republicans have told us for decades. They told us for decades they do not want activist judges. They do not want judges legislating from the bench. They do not want judges taking away the rights of local, state and local governments to be the quote-unquote laboratories of democracy. We've all been hearing this since the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Well, in reality, they only meant that in the sense of civil rights and desegregation. When it comes to enshrining their rights, they now have absolutely no respect for state rights, and that's the entire point of them resetting the Supreme Court. This all comes down to a person like Mitch McConnell coming through for his people in ways you very rarely see Democrats come through for their people. So the progeny of this case is really going to be a resetting of the U.S. judicial system when it comes to the ability of states to regulate many constitutional actions. Secondarily, on the Miranda point, this is the problem when you have an ineffective legislature, because you can march and protest and beg for reforms in the streets for years, but if you have somebody like Mitch McConnell who's willing to effectively pack the Supreme Court, they don't need to protest. They simply need to wait for a case and controversy to come before them, and now they can expand the rights of police, reduce the rights of the individual. This is Blue Lives Matter at the Supreme Court level. This is the conceptualization that the best way to patrol and to keep communities safe is to diminish the constitutional rights and your protections that may exist. And again, the progeny of this ruling is going to be what's interesting as to what exactly law enforcement has to inform you of. There's always been that legal axiom that ignorance of the law is no defense. Well, now police no longer have to inform you that you have the right to remain silent, that anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. They have no need to, will this expand to the point of them not even needing to tell you what you're being detained for, what you're being arrested for. Will they be able to continuously question you without giving you any context or telling you have the right to legal counsel prior to do so? So these are all going to be things that, once we have an opportunity to read through the full decisions, because these are rather lengthy, and as we see these work their way through the court system and through the lower courts, it's going to take maybe years, if not a decade, to find out exactly where these cases go. But it's a very concerning place to be at, particularly given that this court is relatively young, other than Alito and Thomas, that you may have this 6-3 majority of the Supreme Court for another half decade, depending on how presidential elections go. So we're in a very fraught place, and these Republican justices are coming through for their base.
Oh, wow. I mean, Republican, the corporatist justices, it's a dangerous, dangerous thing. David Swanson, executive director of World Beyond War, author of the book, War is a Lie, one of the world's preeminent peace activists. You know, Dr. King warned us years ago about excessive materialism, about rampant militarism, about persistent, nagging racism. And now we have the Supreme Court, and this decision was written by a black man, the black justice on the court, that the Constitution's Second Amendment, he wrote, protects an individual's right to carry a handgun for self-defense outside the home. Outside the home. What does that mean? When I think of Lucy McBath's son, who was sitting in a car at a gas station, and young black boy and a white man objected to the volume of their radio, and he just decided to shoot him. That's it. What is this? What is becoming? It doesn't have to have a racial element. You just have a lot of people. They're not crazy. They're not mentally ill. They're mean. They're angry. And they have a gun. And they feel that they have the right to take out their frustrations on other people. What does this mean, David Swanson?
Well, there are angry people all over the world, but they don't all have guns. And other countries with crazy gun culture change it, and they ban the guns, and they buy up the guns, and they disarm not only the public, but the police. This is why you can't disarm the police in the United States and have unarmed police like in normal countries, because the police think everybody else has a gun. And you see the life expectancy go up in these countries and the quality of life go up in these countries. And now you're going to have police who not only don't have to read you their rights, but are more heavily armed, are more terrified, are more convinced that everybody's got a gun and is about to kill them if they don't kill you first. Because of this Supreme Court ruling, and despite the weak laws coming out of Congress at the same time, you are going to see more mass shootings, but also more non-mass shootings, including suicides, including assassinations. You're going to see a boost to this culture of violence that this country is plagued by. And three of these so-called justices, the three Trumpies, they had ads bought for them, advertising in favor of their confirmation by the gun makers, whose stock yesterday shot upward.
Say what? No, stop. Don't run past that. Say that one more time, please.
The stocks on Wall Street of the gun sellers, of the profiteers, of the companies arming not just this country, but south of the border, Mexico, which has worse gun violence than we do, but the guns are coming from the U.S. Their stocks went up. And these are companies that put their money into lobby efforts that bought ads on television, advertising these Supreme Court justices when they were nominated. Make sure you confirm these people. It's open corruption like you have with the war makers, although it's rarer and newer, and there may be some people out there who are able to be shocked and dismayed by it.
Call me, everybody. What do you think about all of this? 773-763-9278. I mean, and a decision that was tucked away yesterday. David Swanson, I got about 30 seconds before I go to break. The Supreme Court gutted the Miranda rights. The police do not have to tell you anything when they arrest you. Nothing. What do you think of that?
I think it's outrageous. Where is the argument that there was any failure of the existing law? They're radically changing laws in the name of upholding history, that this right on guns they just invented in the name of upholding history. And if you look at the written law, if you look at the Second Amendment, as we've already heard, it was for a well-regulated militia, and it was about these things they called guns that took a long time to shoot one bullet, right? The guns that exist now didn't exist. And that Second Amendment, it was for a lot of things, good and bad. It was about not having a standing army, but it was also about keeping down slaves, and it was about committing genocide, and it was about protecting concentrated wealth. I mean, this is not something that can't be repealed or reinterpreted and read as ordinary English.
Absolutely.
Or the Supreme Court being stripped of these sorts of powers. But Congress has to get off its butt.
You know, we'll be back with more of the Santita Jackson Show. And did you know that Mexico is suing, the government of Mexico is suing America's gun makers? Yeah, not their lobbies, the gun makers. Oh, yeah, they said, you're putting carnage on our streets. Think about that. More of the Santita Jackson Show in just a few minutes. You know, I had missed that, everybody. Oh, David, brilliant. I had missed that, Robert, brilliant, that, you know, the government of Mexico is suing our gun makers and 13 U.S. states. They said, you're manufacturing the guns. We have carnage on our streets. We want $10 billion. Did you know that?
Yeah, Mexico is standing up to the U.S. Mexico refused to come to the Summit of the Americas when the U.S. excluded a number of other countries. It's interesting to see what will happen.
Well, you know, and I understand that it was not a well-attended summit. You know, that, you know, it's just not surprising. And that a lot of the press conferences we saw, you know, you can stage a photo, everybody. You can stage it. People were barely there. They were barely there. You know, it's not a unipolar world anymore. It's not the United States against everybody else. And everybody else. You have the BRICS nations, Russia, Brazil, Russia, India, China. You have South Africa. You have Cuba that is OPEC eligible, everybody. They found tens of billions of dollars of unrefined oil off the coast of Cuba. And in fact, Russia forgave 90% of their debt because they want access to it. Wake up, everybody. It's a different world. It's a different day. Whew. Oh my gosh. This is a lot. Really. Tis a lot. But I did not know that Russia, I mean, that Mexico was suing. I mean, they are suing they're suing California. I mean, this is unbelievable. They're suing everybody. They're suing all of these gun makers. They're not suing the gun lobby, everybody. They're suing the gun makers. They're suing 13 U.S. states. Oh, yeah. California, District of Columbia, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, Maryland, Michigan, Minnesota, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Oregon. And they joined an amicus brief filed by the Massachusetts Attorney General, urging a federal court to deny the gun makers' motions to dismiss the suit. It's a lot. It's a lot. You there, Dwight?
I'm here.
All right. It's a lot going on, everybody. It's a lot going on. I cannot wait to hear from you. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. I wonder what America's going to look like without Miranda rights. We're about to find out, everybody, because that's been tossed. And you can just carry your guns any way you want to out in these streets. Oh, wow. I can't wait to ask you guys, just hold your fire. No pun. You know, what this is going to look like in these fraught times, what that's going to look like. Everybody, please continue to like and share the show. Like and share the show. If you're on Facebook, on the Santita Jackson and Friends page, please like and share the show. And like and subscribe. Like and subscribe and share the show if you're over on YouTube. Please, please, please do that. Wonderful being
Coming
with
back
you
in
today.
15 seconds.
Thank you so much, Paul. All right, everybody, stand by. And we're out at 57. So look at your watches. We are out at 57.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Everybody, we are talking about this dangerous decision. That is what it's being called. Legal experts have warned law enforcement agencies that this is going to be very, very, very dangerous. This right-wing majority in the Supreme Court has basically, they've said what? They have said that gun owners have the right to carry a loaded weapon in public, among other things. And the person who wrote for the court was Justice Clarence Thomas, the senior member of the court. They said the Constitution's Second Amendment protects an individual's right to carry a handgun for self-defense outside the home. What does that mean? What will that mean? What's self-defense? And how often do we really use these guns for self-defense anyway? I mean, Dwight, what do you make of this decision?
Well, I think what we have to be prepared for is the country to go back to vigilante justice.
What does that mean?
In the same days that well, in the old days, they had the community felt it had the right to establish justice and to persecute crimes. And so they would get together and have what they call picnics, where they pick a ninny and they would put him on a tree, bring out sandwiches and Coca-Colas and have a lynching. And that the community, each individual felt that they had the right to enforce the law, not unlike what happened down in the Albury situation last year. And I think what we're going to have to do is really, as course as it sounds, true as it sounds, make hard decisions. And it is whether are we going to be the only ones in the society without a gun? Because the way it's going to shape up is that these right-wing, racist white people, they will have guns, police will have guns, and they will begin to enforce their will on us. And if we're locked into just singing "We Shall Overcome," we're going to really be victims of this harsh racism. When Obama was elected president, the sale of guns was at an all-time high. Because there are people who are preparing to impose their will with guns to, in their minds, to protect the peace and to be an extension of the police forces and to make sure that Negroes stay in line. And what the Supreme Court has done is to codified that. And say, yeah, you're right. The average person who is, quote unquote, a citizen has the right to, with a gun, to impose his will if he sees what he perceives as injustice going on. And so as it is now, in that scenario, we tend to be more the victims. What we have to decide as a culture is, are we going to resist that or are we going to join in? Are we going to keep on fighting the fight for righteousness to say everybody should disarm? Or are we going to say, well, now we also have to be armed and protect ourselves because that is going to be the direction of the culture. It is going to become the Wild Wild West. And it's going to be...
Dwight?
Hello?
No, you went out for a hot second.
Yeah. And it's going to be codified. It's codified. It's going to become, and the Wild Wild West is that, you know, what the Wild West was about, that the sheriff was not the only one in town with a gun, not the only one in town who could settle a grudge, is that anybody could walk in a saloon fully armed, settle a dispute, and work it out in the court.
But allegedly
And
we
it is-
evolved from that. I mean, that was not the, that wasn't, of course, Dr. King was pushing back against that. I'm worried that if everybody's armed up, that how is that going to make things better?
It's not going to make, and that's why I'm saying to you now is that if you look at what's going on, Supreme Court has said that is the new law. That is the law of the day. That's not speculation. This is a real law now. And so even though Dr. King was on the righteous path, the reality is the country is going back to a vigilante. And if we're not ready for the function at the junction, we're going to be the victims of this. I like Patillo to speak to some of this because he really understands that culture and the gun.
Well, he does. But before we get to Robert Patillo, let me ask David Swanson about this. I want you to respond to this as a peace activist. What do you think about this?
Well, I think that many people for many years, including Dr. King, knew that the most powerful tool for moving a government in a better direction is nonviolent, unarmed activism. And I can't help but laugh when I don't cry at the ridiculous ideas of these people who think they need these guns to take on the government that's giving them all these guns. It's absolutely absurd. And I think, that this is part of a culture of militarism and a government of militarism where we see mass shootings by young people trained in their schools by the U.S. military, where we see mass shooters very disproportionately, over twice as likely to be veterans trained by the U.S. military in how to do mass shootings, but doing them in the wrong place, where we see the NRA putting out video ads advertising wars, celebrating wars, promoting new wars, threatening wars with Iran and places around the world, because they know that idiots are going to buy guns so they can fantasize about being in these wars in their backyards, and that Congress, which they've bought and paid for, isn't going to ban assault weapons, even though the new ruling doesn't prevent them doing so. The Congress needs to get off its rear end, take control back from the Supreme Court, ban weapons of war in private hands, and give people schools and universal health care and retirement and all the things that reduce crime far more effectively and cost effectively than all these armed cops and prisons and notions of redemptive violence.
Robert Patillo, will there need to be a response to this? Because it just, as Dwight correctly pointed out, after President Obama was elected, gun sales went through the roof, and they continue to surge throughout America for a whole host of reasons. What's going to happen? Because I think right-wing vigilantism, it clearly it's on the rise. I mean, this Peyton Gendron, not only did he perform reconnaissance on the Buffalo community, I mean, he came through the black community in Buffalo to see what the travel patterns were, because he wanted to maximize the killing, maximize the impact of his carnage, of his murderous ways. And he had planned to walk out of that store because he had all of the stuff on him, everything that could protect him. And he knew he had outgunned the police, and he had planned to walk through Black Buffalo, the black community in Buffalo, and kill everyone in sight. And then you think of Ahmaud Arbery, out for a jog. These men just thought they had the right to kill him. They never planned to perform a citizen's arrest. Robert Patillo, they had planned to kill him. Whew. What does this kind of ruling mean? Written by Clarence Thomas, of all people.
Well, this means that if Democrats want to actually have some sort of action on gun control, it's going to have to happen legislatively. Republicans learned their lesson from what happened in the 1960s and 1970s when you had the Warren Court starting in the 1950s and then kind of the progeny from there. This idea of the activist court that was able to act where the legislature was silent. Democrats are going to have to relearn from that lesson and start saying that if we want these things to happen, they have to be codified, which means you actually have to get off your butt and do something in Congress, which is, the kind of antithetical to Democratic Party practices. At this point in time, depending on how these these rulings are implemented on the state and local level, as Dwight said, you probably got to go get yourself a gun. I mean, just realistically, given the current American environment that we're looking at, the fact that before you can even get the most minuscule version of gun control passed through Congress, you get a Supreme Court decision opening it right back up before you can even close it up. Realistically, if you're going to be in America, and this is exactly what the gun lobby wants, you're going to need to have a gun to be in America at this point in time. If you want to feel any sense of safety and security, given the nature of this law, think about what some states are doing, even expanding beyond this. Constitutional carry is now the law of the land in most southern states, and probably by the 2024 election, pretty much half the country will have constitutional carry, which means you will not need any sort of permit to conceal carry a firearm. So at that point in time, as it is in Georgia and Texas and other states, anybody will be able to have a gun on them at any time. Also, there's legislation moving through many state legislatures. They'll get rid of things like gun-free school zones that will restrict the ability, we've seen this for about a decade, of private businesses to restrict gun possession while you're on their premises. So we'll see more guns in nightclubs, guns in churches, guns in school in the upcoming years. We're simply going towards a more individualistic and militia-based sort of governance. And when we're removing tools for states to be the laboratories of democracies, we're pretty much saying that we're not even going to try out to see what is the most effective, what works the best. Maybe if the California rule brings down crime by 40%, we can replicate that in other states. We're getting rid of that altogether and simply saying, go get you a gun. You're on your own. You're going to be fighting back against your fellow citizens. You're going to be fighting back against your government. You're going to be fighting back against various terrorist organizations and militias. And that's just going to be what America is, unless you're going to get off your tail and elect some people that can actually change the law.
Oh, I mean, in this environment where you have a Supreme Court that is clearly so, I mean, it was a 6-3 split, Robert. Then I'm asking you, as a lawyer, I mean, are there any other remedies? This is very, very dangerous. As you said, public spaces, that's everywhere. So you can just take it as an article of faith that people have a gun in their purse, shirt, someplace. They have one, and they have the right to have it. The Supreme Court just said so. But is it right to have it? No. I mean, I just see carnage here, and random killings for a whole lot of reasons. People don't shoot to hurt; they shoot to kill, Robert. And everybody having a gun is not going to resolve this.
Well, at the end of the day, the only thing that can supersede a Supreme Court decision is going to be an act of Congress, not an executive order, not a state-level decision. And even those acts of Congress are going to have to comport with the new law, with the new rulings and interpretation by the Supreme Court. So anything that happens is going to have to happen currently with the blessing of Joe Manchin, with the blessing of Christian Cinema, with the blessing of trying to get 10 Republicans to cross line and support any legislation, because you have to have a filibuster-proof majority unless you're going to do something about the filibuster. Look, the liberals and progressives, we tried to warn you. We told you what was going to happen. Nobody wanted to listen to them, called them crazy and everything else. And now Republicans are executing the plan. Palpatine would say, execute Order 66. They're letting you know that they are militarizing America, and you better be ready for it. So At least they're telling us beforehand. But I would definitely advise people to get ready, because if you think the Supreme Court is stopping right here, there was an interview with Clarence Thomas yesterday that's turned into a meme that on his birthday, he was able to take rights away from 366 million Americans, because effectively with his decision on guns, now he's put us all in the proverbial crosshairs. So they are enjoying, they're celebrating on that side of the aisle. I'm a huge gun and Second Amendment advocate, but I understand that the way the amendment is written, it says a well-regulated militia. Don't say everybody gets to have it. The Supreme Court today simply said everybody gets to have it, and that's the new rubric we're going to be operating under until Congress does something about it.
Everybody call us at 773-763-9278. And Paul, let me just ask you to do this. If you would reach out to Jennifer Bishop Jenkins, I'd like to get her on if we can. She wasn't able to answer the phone prior to now, but if you can get her on the phone, please get her up. I mean, Dwight, just what is the remedy? I mean, where do we go from here?
Well, I think you have to make a moral choice based on your orientation. You can, if you are anti-violent, anti-guns, I think you could take the position that I study war no more. I personally will never have a gun. I will depend on God to protect me. But if you're living in America in 2022, and look at the reality around you, I think it's profitable to come to the conclusion that it's every man for himself. And if you don't have a gun, then you risk your family getting shot by a neighbor because you're playing your music too loud. I think that, you have to deal with the realities of the cards you deal with. And this is the America that we know. This is the America we've had. I think the best example of this is
White. What did you just say?
Was Tulsa.
Mm-hmm.
Oklahoma is that in Tulsa, the ones that killed the black people in Tulsa were their neighbors. The military got involved at some point, but mostly these were people in the neighborhood. These were people who went to, some of them, the same church. These were people who, some of them, had gone to the same schools. These were neighbors. And the white community rose up and assaulted the black community, and they did that all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
They did that in Chicago.
What you say? We have been here before.
Again, the culture of America is vigilantism.
Yeah. What you say? We have been here before.
It is the cloud that the culture rains down from.
We have Jennifer Bishop Jenkins on with us. Just, very quickly, Jennifer, I'm so glad that you were able to join us. I just want your reaction to this ruling, 6-3 by the Supreme Court, that basically says you can carry a gun in public. That is what the Supreme Court, that is what the Second Amendment, according to the majority's interpretation, allows you to do, facilitates even.
We're just going back to the Old West. This is such a scary ruling, but it is along those same lines as we've had since the 1970s, when the gun manufacturers took over the NRA and made it all about profit. They want everybody to have a gun. They want to make everybody buy one. And what they've done is they've taken this old issue of what we call may issue or shall issue. That's for concealed carry permit. It used to be that concealed carry was because, to carry a concealed weapon meant, you were like a detective, or you were a security guard, or you were somebody that's a treasury agent carrying money around or something. You had to have a special permission to do that, or you were you were endangered by something. And so you had to get a permit to do that. And in many states, that's still the case. In Illinois, we have a background check system called a FOID card that kind of screens people prior to even getting any gun, much less concealed carry. But we now have concealed carry. The whole country now has. That was something they pushed for. So now we have some states that have what we call a May issue, meaning that they only get the concealed carry permit if they go through some sort of a here's why I have to have it check. But now what the Supreme Court has done is mandate that every state will be what we call shall issue, meaning that it's automatic that you get that concealed carry permit. Everybody is automatically assumed to be able to get it. And that means that the only time you can lose the ability to conceal carry would be if you actually get caught committing a crime. So after it's too late, in other words. So we are now facing a nation of mandatory May issue because of the Supreme Court. This is exactly what the gun lobby bought and paid for. It's just going to raise the bar even more to the number of guns that are sold, which is what they wanted. And it's just so heartbreaking.
Everybody, I've got about 4 minutes left. I want to get some closing thoughts, literally a minute from everyone. Let me start with you, Dwight McKee, 1 minute.
Song said I'm getting ready for the function at the junction. It's going to be that way. It's where the culture is going. And again, when you tie that into the fear that many of these white supremacists have of losing power, and they need to suppress any other people that come over here or that try to get involved in the political process, it's going to be more excessive. Their options to try to impose their will by the use of guns. And so again, you have to make your own choice and decide how you will respond to that. Are you going to respond to that with another gun? Or are you going to respond to that just believing that God will protect you? It's an individual decision, but it's real life. And there are real choices that have to be made.
David Swanson, 1 minute.
Yeah, I would just respectfully urge everybody to be very, very careful and serious when you find yourself saying, I'm going to go with the flow, I'm going to do what the gun makers want everyone to do, and to think about the fact that when you get a gun, you radically increase the chances of a gun accident, that there is a contradiction between having a gun available and ready to use against attackers and hostile invaders and protecting your kids from picking up a gun and using it on your family accidentally. I think that we have to be very serious about this sort of decision. And I say this as someone who has absolutely no use for God, who's not trusting in any magical forces, but who thinks that doing what the gun makers want us to do could actually be the wrong thing to do on a personal scale as well as collectively.
Well, I have to tell you, it's Robert Patillo, 1 minute.
In the words of Parliament, is turned into on guard. Defend yourself.
On
because
guard.
people going to be out here with these bop guns.
Remember, your voice has to go up. Remember that.
Oh my God! Yeah, you got to get the whole thing in there. But I think the biggest issue is going to be for states that have traditionally had restrictive gun laws because they don't have the culture of gun ownership. They don't have the infrastructure, things like shooting ranges and trainers available. They don't have the proper reverence for firearms for people who have been raised with firearms. I got my first gun when I was probably 3. A little 22 long rifle, shooting rabbits and stuff in the backyard. So when you grow up like that, you have a very different view of and respect for and reverence for firearms and have the proper properly trained. But right now, it could be a whole lot of folks who ain't never seen a gun in their life run around thinking they're playing Call of Duty or that they're in a rap video. And we're going to see a lot of injuries. We're going to see a lot of deaths simply through accidents by opening these things up too fast to people who don't have a culture around it. So if you're going to now take advantage of the new Supreme Court decisions, please, for every means, join an organization like NAGA, the National African American Gun Association, Black Gun Owners of America. Get out there and train weekly if you want to defend yourself. Invest in locking apparatuses so they will not be available to children, and biometrics for the firearms. It is a very important decision. You're not going in there to buy an accessory,
30 seconds.
Go with your outfit. When you become a gun owner, you are making the conscious decision that I'm putting my life above someone else's, and when push comes to shove, I will be taking another human life, and people have to take that seriously when they are doing, when they are going into this, and they cannot simply think that this is opened up in Wild Wild West, or else we will see a massive learning curve for half the country.
Everybody, please take care of yourselves and take care of each other. And let's move toward a just society and a more peaceful world. Indeed, that was the theme of Reverend Jackson's presidential campaign. Let us study war no more. The great book tells us that. My father says you do best what you study most. We study war a lot. Let's start studying peace. Let's invest in that. Let's invest in that. I had a really tough experience when I was a little girl. Lost a very, very dear friend while he and his brother were playing cops and robbers with the gun that was in the house. He was killed. Never will forget that. Never will forget that. And nobody has been the same since that happened. None of us who went to John J. Pershing Elementary School here in Chicago. So everybody, please take care of yourselves. I love you. Can't wait to be with you on Keep Up Alive on Sunday. We'll be talking about this and so many other issues. God bless you. Thank you, Paul, for a great show. Thank you, Dwight, David, Robert, and Jennifer. Sending you much love. And State Senator Jackie Collins, everybody vote, 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 vote. Go to vote.org. Find out where you can vote. Find out if you're still on the rolls. Get out here and vote June 28th. God bless you. See you on Monday. My beautiful people, I love you so much. What a great...
Oh, thank you, Santita. I'm so sorry I was late.
You came in and said what you needed to say. You kidding me? Come on. It worked, please.
This is your closing words are just like iconic. Thank you.
I just lost a friend when I was a freshman in high school, and he was, this boy was my brother's classmate. And I got a call from Vanessa McNorton. I remember that evening. And she said, girl, did you hear what happened? And I'm not going to call their names because they deserve their privacy, but they're dear, dear, dear friends. I haven't seen them in years, but they'll always be part of my life. And she said, I said, no, what happened? She said, well, one brother accidentally killed the other, and they were twins. They were playing cops and robbers at home. Oh my gosh. And
somebody left a loaded, unlocked gun out.
His father was a police officer,
right?
but he had hidden it. But they, being children, found it. And
they find things.
Oh yeah. And what was so painful, my brothers were both away in boarding school at the time. And she said, because I know Jesse and Johnny are away, and they were all like buddies. Joe Twine, who's gone on to glory, Arnold. I mean, it was just a group of them. These boys, Troy, they had all clustered up, and they were like best buddies. And, I had to go to my mother. I'm like, let me tell you what happened. I don't know what to, you got to call the boys and tell them. It was devastating. Oh, because this is like this is their classmate. Jesse and Johnny are 10 months apart. So, their friends kind of conflated. And it was just like, wait a minute. So that kind of, it was, that is something that I think about it all the time. When I hear this discussion, I think about this boy, and I think about his brother who didn't mean to kill him. He didn't mean it. And the father did, was a police officer. He'd hidden the gun. But the fact is, when you have guns at home, this can happen. But what Robert speaks to is, a time when people and places today where people actually hunt their own food. So that's something very different. Something has happened. We've just taken a turn, and I guess it's a logical extension of where we've been in this culture, where we're now killing each other. We've been doing that since the beginning. None of this is new now, because Black people have always been part of the killing landscape, along with Indigenous people.
Cain and Abel.
That's Cain and Abel. But Black folks got lynched. That's been the sport in the United States. So, but it's just painful. And of course, Clarence Thomas wrote the decision. So there you have it. So look, you guys, I got to run today, but I love you. And wow, the hits just keep on coming. And we lost Miranda. Our Miranda rights have been gutted. So it's
what?
Oh yeah, that's what happened. That was passed.
I'll have to look that.
Yeah, you missed it because the media is not reporting on it. But I read Common Dreams. I said, wait a minute, that decision was offered up too? Yeah, that decision was offered up as well.
Jesus.
Oh, yeah.
My God.
It happened yesterday.
Voting has consequences.
Absolutely. To protect people's Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination, officers are required to inform suspects of their rights, blah, 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 blah. But legal experts have warned that agencies will have zero incentive to ensure that a person being arrested has read their Miranda rights. That's what happened. Officers are no longer required to inform suspects of their rights as soon as they're taken into custody. They don't have to do that now. We're going to be talking about that on Monday. Wow. They do not have to do that. That decision was rendered yesterday. No one's talking about that.
God. Yeah. Oh my God.
Well, you know what? Hopefully it'll make people fight. Our liberties and rights are fragile. They're fragile. Yeah. They're not given to us. People had to fight for them. And Americans are going to have to wake up. Nobody gives you anything. Your freedom is something that you fight for, and you have to fight to keep it.
Well, that was the great line, wasn't it? You have a republic if you can keep it.
If you can keep it. That woman said that. No, that's what Benjamin Franklin said. He said, a republic, if you can keep it. We don't even know what a republic is because we throw around democracy. No. We went from a constitutional monarchy to a constitutional republic. That's a big deal. That's a big leap. That's why these founding fathers were considered to be men of the Enlightenment with all of their flaws. They were men of their time. But they wrote a document for all time, and they knew what their limitations were. That's why they left space for it to be amended. That's the genius of it. My brother Jesse explained it in his book, A More Perfect Union. And in his new book, The Finger of God, he looked at the divine inspiration behind our Bill of Rights and our Constitution. They knew that they were not without flaw. You saw the conflicts that Thomas Jefferson had about slavery. Sally Hemings was his wife's sister. His wife died when he was 39. He lived with Sally Hemings until he was 83 when he died. Seriously? Thomas Jefferson was 6'4", big, good-looking guy, and you mean to tell me he couldn't find a woman? Of course he could. He did find a woman in his own house, his wife's sister, who was a more beautiful version of his wife, according to legend. Stop it. He took her to the White House with him, but it became such a scandal. J.T. Callender wrote a sonnet about Dusky Sally. He had to send her back to Monticello because he had planned to let her be the lady of the house at the White House. You can't make this stuff up.
Wow, I'm telling you, it's just fascinating because there's more, and through DNA, they found that there's more Hemings Jefferson descendants than there are anything else.
Of course there are. He had 2 children with his wife. He had like 8 with her. And if you go into Monticello, we were taken on, because it's a museum, we were taken on the private tour. And there are rooms behind rooms behind rooms. You've never seen anything like it. And I asked so many piercing questions. The curator, who's an historian, asked me if I was an historian. I said, no, I've just read a lot about this. But it's very clear that his family, his Black family, lived in here with him. And different great men of the time who would go there would say, it's an odd place. Love Thomas, but he's got some white people who look like him who are serving. Can't quite figure this out because Sally Hemings was like an octoroon. Sally Hemings' father was white, whose mother's father was white, and on and on and on. So, come on. That's why my father's mother didn't want to watch Roots. She said, do you think I want to be reminded why we look this way? No, not going to watch that. not me. No. I'm much browner than she. So she's got she had a real thing about this thing. So look, I love you. And love you, Jennifer. And you be on the lookout for a call because we're gonna be talking about this on Sunday. But I think Reverend also needs to talk about the Miranda rights, because that's a biggie.
I'm here.
What did you say? What? Yeah, the Miranda rights. They have been they've basically been suspended. Fania, I hear you. Funding our own demise. That's what we're doing. I love you all. I got to push out of here. I got to get north. But I love you, Dwight. David, thank you so much. You didn't get cut off today. Yay. Ooh. Robert Patillo, love y'all. Love you, love you. Morning Stars, I love you, love you, love you, love you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. No, his common law wife was black, Effie. Sally Hemings was the half sister of his wife, Martha. Martha, I forget her maiden name. And Sally Hemings had the same father. And so they gave Sally Hemings to their daughter, Martha, when she married Thomas Jefferson. And then she accompanied his daughter, her niece, overseas to France. And that is allegedly where the relationship began between this 39-year-old man and this 14-year-old girl. Now, I don't care what the movies have shown, because they've made her this temptress. She was 14. It's called pederasty. Okay. Pedophilia is when you get someone under 12. Pederasty is when you get someone just above 12. These are the facts, everybody. That's what they're called. That's what it's called. Pederasty. Pedarasty. Love y'all. See ya. And I hope, and maybe Facebook will shut that down. Whatever. You're not going to shut down the truth. There are a whole lot of Hemingses who are just in Evanston, Illinois, and they are also in Ohio. Blood never loses its power. How about that? Love y'all. See ya.